The wedding invitations are ready to be delivered. The rings are waiting. The chairs face the sea. And two families are preparing to walk their sons toward the same place. Today, what was once hidden stands in the open. This is salt in our veins. We do. The envelope sat in 3 neat stacks on the coffee table. Kai pressed the edge of the top stack against his palm. Noah sat beside him on the floor. Kai reached for the calculator, tapped the total back onto the screen, and turned it toward Noah. Noah looked at it, then reached for his mug.
That's not terrible.
Kai took the mug from him.
That's boat repair money.
It's wedding money.
It's the same amount.
Noah leaned closer and checked the list again.
We already cut the second flower arrangement.
Kai picked up the pen and drew a line through cake. Noah watched the ink cross the word.
The cake?
Dinner has dessert.
It's a wedding.
It's a small family wedding.
People expect cake.
Kai tapped the pen against the paper once. Noah took the pen from his hand, turned the notepad toward himself, and studied the remaining cost. Kai reached for the envelope again, counted them under his breath, and set the final one on top. Each one sealed, stamped, and written by Noah because his handwriting stayed cleaner across the paper.
Fine. No cake.
Noah circled the cake cost and wrote 0 beside it. Kai took the notepad, folded the page back, and set it beside the laptop.
Good.
Well, at least our honeymoon to Bali isn't crossed out.
We could go somewhere closer. Cheaper.
You've never been abroad. I want you to experience it. Me guiding my husband. Think about it.
Yeah. I like that.
Noah gathered the rest of the envelope into one stack and tapped them against the table.
I'll post them now.
Kai looked toward the window.
Post office closes in 20.
I'll make it.
Noah stood, reached for his jacket. Kai rose with him and followed him to the door.
Call your mom. Tell her cake's out.
Kai watched him cross the front path, one hand over the jacket pocket as the wind moved through the street. He closed the door, picked up his phone from the table, and dialed. His mother answered on the 3rd ring.
Everything all right?
Kai looked at the coffee table. The envelopes were gone.
Yeah, the invitations. Noah's taking them to post now.
It feels real now, doesn't it?
We cut the cake.
Good.
His mother gave a small laugh.
You're supposed to say we need one.
You need dinner, rings, and someone who stays.
I didn't cut those out.
Then you're doing fine. You nervous?
About the cost?
Kai,
He turned from the window and looked at the table again.
A bit.
you have a good man. That's enough.
The pen hissed as Kai pushed the rice through the oil. He stood at the stove, one hand on the wooden spoon, sleeves pushed to his elbow. The notepad lay open beside the salt. The ceremony note sat beneath it, half covered by the edge of the spoon rest. The front door opened. Noah stepped in with cold cheeks and one hand tucked inside his jacket.
Post it.
Noah said, crossed to the fridge, and opened it with his shoulder turned toward Kai. He slid a small box on the top shelf and closed the door with his hip.
The woman at the counter asked if it was a wedding.
What did you say?
I said yes.
Noah crossed to him and kissed the side of his neck.
That's it? She said congratulations. I said thanks.
Kai lifted the pan and divided the rice between the plates. They ate with the crossed-out cake line facing up. Noah picked up the notepad.
Still walking together?
Why? You have something in mind?
Noah placed the notepad back on the table.
You still want that?
I don't know. I mean, it makes sense, right? We said we'd walk together.
We can still walk together. What do you think about your parents walk you in? And you?
My parents walk me in.
Who goes first?
Since you proposed, maybe you.
I don't want to stand there waiting.
Kai stopped cutting. Noah reached across the table and turned the notepad toward himself. He drew 2 lines from opposite side of the page, one from the left, one from the right. They met in the middle, then became one line toward the bottom.
You come in from one side with your parents. I come in from the other with mine.
We meet here.
I like that.
Kai said.
I'm an excellent planner.
Noah smiled. He stood, crossed to the fridge, and opened it. He took out a small white box, carried it back with one hand behind his back, and sang under his breath. Kai stared at him. Noah set the box beside a notepad. One cupcake sat inside. A tiny silver sugar pearl pressed near the edge. Noah held his fork upright.
Ceremonial first cut?
It's a cupcake.
Still ceremonial.
Kai pushed his fork through the frosting and broke the cupcake in half.
You're ridiculous.
He lifted one piece toward Noah.
You're still marrying the ridiculous me?
Kai smiled at that and looked down at the notepad again. The cupcake sat open between them, frosting smeared across the edge of the box. Noah carried the glasses to the sink, rinsed them, and set them upside down on the rack.
What's left on the checklist? Readings. That's the last one? Should we limit the length? Or long enough to make our mothers cry?
Kai looked up.
Or short enough that our fathers don't start checking the wind?
Kai laughed.
1 page.
1 page. Sounds good. No peeking.
Kai wrote 1 page under the reading line. He kept the pen and set it straight beside the notepad. Noah stood, went to the bookshelf near the hallway, and pulled down the small wooden box from the second shelf. The old campus set inside with a faded cloth pouch and the small light from the prom night wrapped in cloth.
Can't believe we're actually doing it.
Noah reached for one and turned it between his fingers. Kai put both rings back into the pouch. Noah sat back.
We're done for tonight.
Noah took his hand and pulled Kai toward the bedroom. He sat on the edge of the bed and kept Kai's hand in his. Kai crossed the last step and sat beside him. Kai stood in his parents' bedroom. His shirt sat open at the throat, the cuffs unbuttoned, the sleeves falling over his hand as he reached for the small box on the dresser. His father stood near the wardrobe. Kai opened the box and took out the cufflinks.
Give me that.
His father folded the cuff, lined the holes, and pushed the metal through.
Thank you.
Kai said. His father released his wrist, took the jacket from the hanger, and held it open. Kai turned toward the mirror. The suit looked too clean for him, too bright against his skin. He reached for the collar and pressed it flat. His father looked at the pocket.
You ready?
Kai nodded.
Stand straight and go get him.
His father placed one hand on the back of his neck, squeezed once. Across town, Noah stood in the guest room with his jacket folded over the back of a chair. His father sat on the edge of the bed, with the open ring pouch in his hand. Noah buttoned his shirt. His father held the pouch out.
You want these in my pocket? No, Kai has the box.
Of course he does.
Noah looked over.
What does that mean? He knows where things go.
I know where things go.
Noah looked toward the window. Cars had begun to gather near the coastal road. White chairs stood in rows beyond the glass. His father followed his line of sight.
You picked a good place.
Kai picked the place.
His father adjusted Noah's collar one last time.
Then you picked the right man.
His father opened the door and stepped into the hall.
Come on.
Noah picked up the small letter folded on the dresser, slid it into the inside pocket, and followed him out. The wind reached the chairs first. It moved through the white rose. The arch stood at the edge of the grass. Beyond it, the water moved blue and hard under the sun. Kai stood behind the low fence with his mother on one side and his father on the other. Kai looked toward the far side of the grass. Noah stood with his parents at the other entrance, his ivory jacket bright against the green. Kai kept his hands open at his sides. The officiant stepped into place beneath the arch and lifted one hand. The small group of family members stood. Kai's mother tightened her hold on his arm. His father moved his hand to the middle of Kai's back. Kai looked across the aisle again. Noah looked back. Kai nodded. They started from opposite sides. Kai walked with his parents along the left path, each step pressing into the grass. Across the chairs, Noah walked with his parents along the right path, His mother held his arm with both hands. His father kept one hand on Noah's elbow. The guests turned their heads from one side to the other. Noah reached it first by half a step and stopped. Kai arrived with his parents. Noah waited at the center. Kai crossed the last space alone and placed his hands in Noah's.
You were half a step early. I was excited.
Kai looked toward the arch.
Ready?
Noah turned with him. They walked the final stretch together. Their parents took their seats in the front row. Kai and Noah stopped beneath the arch. The officiant smiled, opened the book, and waited for the wind to settle enough for the first page to stay flat.
We are gathered here by the sea, with family, with witnesses, and with the two men who have chosen this place.
The wind pushed the cloths above them. Kai kept one hand in Noah's and reached into his jacket with the other, his fingers touching the folded letter. Noah did the same. The officiant looked between them.
You chose to bring letters.
Noah drew his out first. Kai held his in place for one more breath, then pulled it free.
You first?
Kai shook his head.
You.
Noah laughed once under his breath, opened the page, and looked down. Kai kept both hands around his letter.
Kai,
He began.
you waited for me for 10 years.
The wind moved the edge of the page.
I don't know how to make that smaller. I don't know how to give those years back. But I know what I can give you now.
Noah held it tighter.
I can give you every morning from here. I can give you the truth I should have given you when we were 18. I can give you my hands, my home, and every place I go.
I am here now,
Noah looked up.
not as the boy who left, but as the man who stayed. I choose you, Kai.
He folded the page and held it against his chest. The officiant looked toward Kai. Kai opened his letter.
Noah.
The name came out steady.
I was scared for a long time. Scared of what people knew. Scared of what I wanted. But I am not scared anymore with you beside me. You opened my eyes. You came and opened doors I had kept closed. You showed me that staying doesn't mean standing still. It means choosing who I stand with.
Kai read the final lines.
I choose you as my husband, my home, and the hand I reach for every morning from now on.
The officiant stepped forward.
Kai and Noah asked to answer this next part together.
Kai turned toward Noah.
Kai and Noah, do you choose this marriage freely, with your families as witnesses, with the life behind you honored, and the life ahead of you entered together?
Kai looked at Noah. Noah reached for his hand.
We do.
They said.
Do you promise to keep choosing each other in ordinary days, in hard weather, in the places you return to, and in the places you have yet to go?
We do.
They said.
The rings.
The officiant turned toward the front row. Kai's father stood. He crossed the grass, placed it in Kai's hand, and returned to his seat. Kai opened the lid. Noah looked down at the box and smiled. Kai loosened the pouch, took out Noah's ring, and held it between his fingers. Kai took Noah's left hand. He set the ring at the knuckle, pressed it forward, and slid it into place.
With this ring, I choose the life we build from here.
Noah looked at the ring on his hand, then reached into pouch for Kai's ring. He took Kai's hand and held it in palm up. Then he turned it and placed the ring on Kai's finger.
With this ring, I stay beside you. By the promises you have made together, and by the rings you have exchanged, I now pronounce you married. You may kiss.
Kai moved first. He stepped in, lifted his hand to Noah's jacket, and drew him closer. Noah met him halfway. Their mouths touched under the arch. Then the chair scraped against the grass as their family stood. Kai kept one hand on Noah's jacket and lowered the other to their joined hands. Noah laughed against his mouth and pulled back enough to look at him. The applause rose behind them, carried by the wind toward the water. The cottage key stuck once in the lock. Kai turned it harder, pushed the door with his shoulder, and stepped inside. Kai looked at Noah's hand around his. Noah lifted it, kissed the ring, and lowered it back between them. Kai opened the wooden box with his free hand. The cloth bundle rested there. Kai took it out, unfolded the cloth, and placed a small ballroom light on the table. Kai turned it once in his hand, found the switch, and pressed it. The light came on soft and gold. Noah came up behind him and placed both hands on his waist.
I downloaded the music on my phone.
What music?
Noah reached into his trouser pocket, took out his phone, and tapped the screen. The first notes rose low from the speaker. Kai looked at the ballroom light. Noah set the phone on the table beside it. Kai let Noah place one hand at his waist. He set his own hand on Noah's shoulder and stepped with him. Noah kept the rhythm with one hand at Kai's back and the other locked around his fingers. Kai watched their hands. Noah turned him once, caught him closer, and laughed into his shoulder. Kai tightened his arm around Noah's waist and moved him back 2 steps. Noah's heels touched the bed frame. The music kept going. Noah lifted their joined hands and pressed Kai's ring against his mouth. Kai lowered his hand, caught Noah's chin, and kissed him. Noah answered, stepped back, and sat on the edge of the bed, pulling Kai between his knee. The song kept playing on the table. Kai leaned down, braced one hand beside Noah's thigh, and kissed him again. Noah's hand moved from Kai's waist to his back. Kai pushed him down to the mattress. Noah shifted up the bed and drew Kai with him. Their trousers caught at knees and ankles, then fell near the chair. The old ballroom light stayed on beside the wooden box, touching the room in gold. Bali met them with heat. A staff member took their bags. Kai stopped at the edge of the deck and looked past the water to the trees beyond it.
Drink first?
Kai looked at the bar and nodded. They sat at the counter. The bartender set 2 napkins down.
First time in Bali?
He asked.
Welcome to Bali.
The bartender picked up a cloth and wiped the far end of the counter.
I'm Tama. Call if you need anything.
Kai watched him move down the bar, turning toward another guest. Noah leaned closer, shoulder against his.
First night.
Kai looked at him.
Our first night was last night.
Noah's smile spread before he looked down at their hands. Kai squeezed once and leaned in until his mouth brushed Noah's. The kiss stayed small, held between the bar counter and the gold light. Noah smiled into it and kept their hands locked together. Thank you for listening to Salt in Our Veins. Kai and Noah's stories closes here, with the tide behind them, the road ahead, and the life they finally chose together. But love like theirs does not end with the final chapter. It keeps moving through ordinary mornings and every place they return to side by side. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more stories on gay audiobooks. YouTube membership is now open behind closed doors. Thank you.